Hello and welcome back to another episode of a Cozy Christmas podcast. My name is Art, and we are just about a week away from Thanksgiving. So I hope that you are getting in shape for the big turkey day, trying out lots of different potential recipes and snacks and treats and, all the things that make your cardiologist groan. Today I have an interview for you. Her name is Clara McKenna. She's the author of the acclaimed Stella and Lyndy mystery series. She is also a fellow Iowan. Along with me, I'm excited to be sharing some great Iowa talent with you today. When you really dig deep into the culture and people of Iowa, you'll find some very creative, very talented people. And fortunately, I didn't have to dig too deep to find Clara McKenna. She's written a wonderful mystery, Christmas mystery that is book 5 in the series, but I'm going to go back and reread the whole series. I know I've talked about the book in a previous episode, but she's going to be my guest today. I'm really looking forward to sharing that interview with you. But let's take a quick stop by the Christmas Book Corner, and I got a couple of recommendations for you. If you are a parent of young children and are looking for some new, good Christmas stories, I've got 2 I want to recommend. One is called Needles, the Forgotten Christmas Tree, and it's by Richard Wagner. And it's a wonderful little story about a scraggly little Christmas tree that must endure criticism, laughter, and setbacks to realize his goal of becoming a beautiful Christmas tree. It's a story that shows that while the world is not always a perfect place, but that with beauty and love and acceptance, along with the spirit of Christmas, that we can help make a change and we can help bring joy. So it's a very heartwarming Christmas story, beautiful illustrations. And I loved the conversation I had with Richard, and that will be coming up in the next week or 2 on the podcast. So make sure you stay subscribed so you won't miss out on that interview. And then I also want to share another children's book that is coming out on November 30th, but it's available for pre-order right now on Amazon and places like that. It's called Double Trouble and the Upside Down Christmas Tree, and it's by Tyler Mitchell. It tells the story of Tyler when he was a young boy, and he had 2 twin brothers that were nicknamed Double Trouble. This is based on a true story of his life that when they were young, they just kept causing trouble with the Christmas tree, and their father finally had to get a little creative to help keep them out of the Christmas tree. Tyler's book, Double Trouble and the Upside Down Christmas Tree, is again a wonderful children's story, perfect for that age 3 to 5, 3 to 6, 3 to 7 age range. Really great animated drawings, a fun story that I think your young kids will enjoy, or grandkids. If you are looking for some book ideas to send to your grandkids, or your own kids are young and would enjoy this, I would encourage you to check those out. If you're an adult and just love a beautiful put together Christmas story to leave out for decorations, both of these would be fantastic. I just keep finding myself grabbing them and looking through at the pictures. It's just beautifully done. The illustrator in the Needles book, her name is the name there is Sydney Kruger. And then for the Double Trouble and the Upside Down Christmas Tree, the illustrator is Brian Dumb. Just fantastic job. I loved my conversation with Tyler. We just swapped stories and talked about Christmas for quite a while. And that episode will come out, I believe, on November 30th, which is when his book is released as well. But it's available now for pre-order, and that lets the publisher know that there's a lot of interest in that book. So you want to make sure to check those out. But Tyler's book got me thinking about Christmases as a kid and how much fun it was, just to have that joy of being a child at Christmas time. There's really nothing like it. As an adult, I still find joy and a lot of pleasure in Christmas, obviously, but there's just something so amazing and magical about seeing Christmas with the eyes of a child, with the attitude, with the approach of a child, that I find myself missing that some days. I've loved having the time when my kids were young and seeing Christmas and how excited they were for Christmas. And now I'm at the age where, I'll probably be closer to grandkids now within the next, 5-10 years, who knows. All that to say, this year, don't be a Grinch. What both stories have in common is that sometimes things don't go as expected, but that doesn't mean we have to give up, right? That Christmas is ruined, or that, Santa won't come, or whatever. Get creative, get into the spirit of the holiday. I guess, don't look at these things as challenges, but as opportunities to create some new and long-lasting memories. The common theme with both of these gentlemen that reached out to me with their story is that these were events that happened to them as children, and that has carried on into adulthood for them, to the point where they were so inspired by the stories that happened to them, they've written it down in a book and are leaving it for, the next generation. So, you never know how those Christmas memories of the past can be used to help inspire Christmas joy into the future. It's just something to think about. But again, those two books are called Needles, The Forgotten Christmas Tree by Richard Wagner, and Double Trouble and the Upside Down Christmas Tree by Tyler G. Mitchell. Both are available on Amazon, and I'll leave links down below for you guys to check that out. All right, well, speaking of books, let's go ahead and I'll head up to the old interview loft. I'll talk with Clara McKenna about her new book, Murder on Mistletoe Lane. My guest today is Clara McKenna. She is the author of the Stella and Lyndy mystery series, and her latest book is called Murder on Mistletoe Lane, a Christmas set Christmas set mystery. I don't know if it's quite as a cozy mystery as some are, but it's definitely in the neighborhood. I read it and enjoyed it greatly. I thought it was kind of a great combination of Downton Abbey and a cozy mystery. Clara is also a fellow Iowan with me, so we both give you a hearty Christmas greeting today from the glorious Midwest. And Clara, welcome to the Cozy Christmas Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
This book that you wrote just came out, at the time of our recording, it was just 2 days ago, so it's out now. What can you tell us about the book?
It is the fifth book in the series, and it is Stella and Lyndy, who are the main characters. They are having their first Christmas together as newlyweds at Lyndy's ancestral estate in the New Forest region of England. And Stella, who has not really had much happy Christmases since she was a child, is trying to kind of recreate that magic that she sort of thinks she remembers from back then. And she's getting all kinds of roadblocks. So she just wants things like popcorn to string on the tree, and the cook refuses to pop it for her. And she wants to maybe bring some of her traditions from Kentucky, maybe put a little bourbon in the fruitcake, that sort of thing. and then, of course, on top of it all, she has little things missing from her room. And then the housekeeper gets sick, and then the cook goes missing, and all kinds of things kind of get in Stella's way of recreating this magical Christmas. Not to mention, of course, since it is a murder mystery, that she tends to find dead bodies. So that's kind of the gist. Lyndy is trying to help her. He also is just kind of thinks of Christmas as a duty and stuffy and the same thing every year, and is really excited to have Stella kind of infuse this new excitement into the house. So
this was a new series to me. I actually haven't heard of it yet. And so this is, I'm glad I was sent a copy because I mentioned in a previous episode, I had talked a little bit about this book and said I was going to go back and start reading with book 1 because I really enjoyed it. I truly did.
great. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm glad you found it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's a couple of places know that I like to talk about Christmas books on the podcast. So I get sent a book a time or two. And I was joking with my wife this morning, in fact, that this is the whole reason I started my podcast was to get free books. So
Well, yeah, you got a good gig going then, don't
that's
you?
right. Yeah. Well, not entirely, but but I guess just to look at your series as a whole, and I will say, if folks are interested in reading book 5, I have had no idea about the series at all, and I don't tend to like to read books out of order, but sometimes I have to, and I didn't feel lost at all in like trying to figure out who is who or the backstory. It's a story you could read out of order, I think. So just from that perspective, I know I've had people ask me that before about other books I've covered. So,
and if I can say, I actually did that on purpose
mm-hmm,
because when I, I also love to read mysteries and cozy mysteries, and one of the things that I tend to do is go to like the library or the bookstore and find especially when I'm looking for a new author, like I'll find their seasonal book, like
mm-hmm,
their Christmas book or their Halloween book or their Easter book. And if I have never read any of them before, but then it's topical, so I think, well, if I like that, then I'll go back and read, start
mm-hmm.
at the beginning. It's kind of like a good introduction. And so when I wrote my Christmas book, I thought, well, maybe there's people who will just find me because it's a Christmas book. So I have to make sure that it is as standalone as possible. So I'm glad you felt that way.
Yeah, definitely. But looking at just your series as a whole, how did you get into writing it?
Well, I was talking to my agent and we were come up with an idea for a series. And I was throwing out different ideas. And I said, one of the things that I've always been an Anglophile since I can remember, just all things British.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, so I would love to set a series in England, but I don't know what the hook would be, what it would be. And so we just started talking, and then I started telling him this story about um, how I was, I think, 10 years old when I told my mom that I wanted to go to England. I was a big Beatles fan, and I had Victoria magazine, the whole thing. So
Mm-hmm.
I said to him, I told my mom I wanted to go to England, and she said, "Okay, well, we'll open a savings account, and you can save up your money, and you can go." So when I was 17, I went to her and I said, "Okay, I've got enough money," and she said, "To do what?" And I said, "To go to England." So I went to England, and I had been, like I said, saving up my money and dreaming about it and thinking about it and reading about it for all those years. And when I got there, I actually had like this culture shock. I thought I had known so much about it, read so much about it, and we have such a shared history with
Mm-hmm.
England. I didn't expect it to be vastly different. And yet I was struck day after day after day, all the differences between our cultures in a good way and sometimes in not so good way. And so I said, yeah, it was really interesting to go there and have that, feel like a fish out of water in a place that I thought I would fit like a glove. And my agent said to me, well, I guess we've found your new series. So I created this American who, was this fish out of water. And so I had to also come up with why would she go to England and what would be the benefits, what would be the downsides, what would be the conflicts. And so I came up with, I had been reading about the $1 Million princesses, that whole kind of phenomenon,
Mm-hmm.
and decided that that's what I wanted her to be, to Stella to be. And then I came up with the idea, but she didn't know that her father, who is a Kentucky horse breeder, so he's like wealthiest men in Kentucky, and yet he can't climb the social status in this era without a British title, which is what a lot of the American robber barons, so to speak, did. So they would marry off their daughters, and then they would gain that social status. So that's what he did, and he decided basically to sell Stella off like one of his racehorses. She just didn't know about it.
Mm.
So that kind of set up that fish out of water, and I was able to combine Lyndy and Stella, because they're both coming at that arranged marriage in different ways, but neither one of them they were both forced to do it, and neither one was very happy about it. But luckily for them, they found a kindred soul in each other. So I wanted it to kind of, even though they came at it from a negative perspective, the two overbearing parents, I wanted it to sort of have a happy ending. So they do eventually evolve to like each other and to love each other. And yeah, so that's kind of where it came from.
Okay. Yeah, I was wondering, I caught hints and was able to put some pieces together, as I was reading book 5, but that's
Right.
kind of what I pieced together, and you filled in a few
Yeah.
little details for me there. So
Yeah.
I really like the vibe of this book, and maybe it's throughout the series of, kind of tapping into that Downton Abbey kind of culture of the kitchen staff and the maids and all that with the upper crust of society. I just find that dynamic to be so fascinating.
It really is, and that's one of the things I like about, because you do have that stratification,
Mm-hmm.
but bringing in an American, because you think upstairs downstairs, because I know there was Downton Abbey, but then before
Yeah.
Downton Abbey was upstairs downstairs, and I watched I think there's like 22 seasons of that or something.
Wow.
And I watched that as a teenager. So that's I was thinking that as well. And so it's always nice to have a character who can navigate those two worlds.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I made, one of the reasons why I created Stella, who, although she's from a wealthy family, she's American, so things are a little less formal in her world. And then having kind of this absentee father, which you haven't gotten because you've only read book 5, but
Mm-hmm.
her father was a very distant, brutish man that she didn't spend a lot of time with. She spent most of her life with stable hands and that sort of thing. And her mother was also gone, so she was raised more by the staff. And so when she came to England, she expected to be able to interact with the household staff the same way she did at home. And so she actually, even though she can, kind of go upstairs and downstairs, but then finds that even there the rules have changed.
Mm-hmm.
So it's fun to do that as well.
I was, I don't know if enjoying is the right word, but appreciating her Stella's struggle there, where she wanted to talk with the kitchen workers, and they were like shocked, you're down here, don't come down here.
Yeah, exactly.
You're supposed to be upstairs. And then
yeah,
the some of the folks upstairs were like just dismissing her out of hand, because
right.
of who she is. And that was a very interesting part of her character development in this book.
And one of the things too that you missed is, one of the books, she's actually stays at the dowager house because she once they are engaged, it's inappropriate for her to be actually living in the same household as Lyndy. So they send her over to the dowager house, which no one is staying, but they still have a staff. It's a minimal staff. There's a housekeeper, a cook, and a butler, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just her and her father and these 3 servants. And so she actually gets to know these servants very, very well. And that's where she starts to charm them in a way and make some of them realize that, okay, she's kind of quirky and does little things a little different, but she's, got a good heart, and we can tolerate her odd requests. And those characters end up being in the 5th book. So was it Mrs. Downey and the cook? And it's funny, I can't think of the the characters. I got so many characters, but
Right.
the housekeeper and the cook from the Dowager House end up at Morrington Hall. So going forward, she's going to have a little bit more sympathetic staff, which is nice. I like to have more sympathetic people around her. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Now, do you have plans then to keep the series ongoing?
I do. Yeah, I'm writing a book right now where which is book 6 in the series, where Stella and Lyndy attend the Open Championship, or otherwise known around here as the British Open, in just outside St Andrews, Scotland. And then there is a book 7 as well planned, but
All right.
that's in the future. Yeah.
All right. Well, this book again is set at Christmas time. So how was it writing about Christmas throughout the year? It was difficult for you, or were you able to get into the zone?
I would say for the most part, I was able to get in the zone. I I love Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
I love Christmas. It's definitely my favorite season. And though I do tend to, try to keep it after Halloween
Right.
or even Thanksgiving. But I'm definitely by Thanksgiving, I'm definitely itching at the bit to, put up my tree and start decorating. And I grew up, my mom decorated our house to, just to the nines. And
Mm.
it was, I was able to kind of tap into that childhood um, adoration. Really, I just adored Christmas, and so I was able to tap into that whenever I was at the, typing on my laptop, even if it was, 90 degrees outside, because I have such a rooting in the tradition of, Christmas and all the traditions, that it wasn't hard to pull them up.
Mm.
No.
Yeah. And worst comes to worst, you could just crank up the air conditioner and,
Right.
pretend it's
Right.
cold.
Right.
What was it the other, earlier this week, the temperature outside was, almost 80 degrees. I think it actually got over 80, which is unusual for October. And
Yes.
my wife had planned to have soup that night.
Yeah.
And she said, I'm sorry I planned soup on such a hot night, but let's just turn the air conditioner down. we'll, we'll
Well,
make it
there's a
work. That's right.
that works.
Yep. So that we did. So again, this book is called Murder on Mistletoe Lane. It does contain some wonderful Christmassy scenes, as well as just your typical your murder mystery elements as well. So I know I've read some mystery books that are set at Christmas, but it's almost like an afterthought. But this really has Christmas woven throughout it, and that's I think what really appeals to us. So I again recommend you all go out and read this book. And I believe the book 1 is called Murder at Morrington Hall.
Yes.
That's the first book.
Yep.
Okay.
And that's also where Murder on Mistletoe Lane, that's where it takes place. That's where they're in Morrington Hall. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I think this will be one that folks will enjoy reading this time of year for sure. As we want to kind of pick your brain a little bit here, as we talk also about Christmas and traditions and things. As you mentioned, you're a big fan of Christmas. One of the things I like to ask my guests here, I've kind of just started really, but do you like eggnog, and or no? That's the real big question.
I love eggnog,
All right.
but I'm lactose intolerant. So I get the eggnog light,
Mm-hmm.
which is made with the skim milk.
Mm-hmm.
And then I take my lactaid pill. But I have to say, eggnog is one of those things that if I could buy it in the grocery store year round,
Mm-hmm.
I would.
Mm.
I definitely limit myself because I know it's so rich and it's, not
Yeah.
the healthiest thing, but I love eggnog, especially with a little shavings of fresh nutmeg on top. Oh, yeah. I
Oh
love
boy.
eggnog.
Yep.
I even got a recipe book as a child,
Mm-hmm.
and they're very, very simple recipes that, a 6, 7, 8 year old could do. And the only page that has, like splatters and, and mess on it, because I used it every year, was the homemade eggnog page. So I used to even make my own homemade eggnog as a child.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah.
now we're dealing with a fan here for sure. Yeah.
Yes.
I've been tempted to try to make my own eggnog, but I didn't know how hard it would be or anything like that. I haven't really looked at the at a recipe or anything, so I might have to give that a try.
Yes.
Now I really like since we both live in Iowa, you're familiar with A&E eggnog.
Yes.
I have tried other eggnog and they don't sponsor this show at all, but that is my favorite eggnog. I mean,
It is
there's
good.
nothing that compares. Although I have to probably check into that light version because I just had a doctor's appointment where I found out my cholesterol has been way too high. So
Right. And eggnog doesn't help.
no,
Definitely.
I'm like, Doc, we're headed into eggnog season here, right?
Right.
You can't restrict me, but
That's right. Yeah. So look into the light. It definitely is you
okay.
can have more for the same amount of
There you go. Yeah.
cholesterol.
Hey, similar to you as well. With lactose intolerance and things, I got a little bit of that as well. But it's a sacrifice I'm willing to make. But
Me too.
yeah,
Me too.
yeah,
Definitely.
yeah, definitely. Well, that's really the big quick Christmas question there. I know I've had some people who say I don't like eggnog at all. Give me hot chocolate, but and those people aren't allowed back on my show. So. But I like both. Hot chocolate's just as good. So
It is. Yeah.
yeah. What are some of your favorite Christmas stories or movies that if I didn't watch this film, it wouldn't be Christmas.
Well, that's tough because we have so many Christmas movies that we just start watching like one a night
Uh huh.
like, kind of after Thanksgiving. And it's interesting because, but there are favorites. And so we start with the least favorite ones and leave the favorite ones to, like the day, Christmas Eve or Christmas Eve.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have to say, of all of them, my absolute favorite is Arthur Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
It is just, it's such, it, it embodies Christmas, and it's such a feel good movie that I've seen it. I maybe 20 times already. And it's only been out maybe 10 years, and it's just, it always makes it. I mean, my face hurts by the time I'm done because I'm smiling so much through the movie.
Mm.
That's my absolute favorite. And of course it's British. No
Yeah.
surprise there. Um, but I also like the classics. I love, A Christmas Carol. Pretty much every version I have, I have the actual story, the Dickens
Mm-hmm.
story, and that I read every year, and then all the different iterations.
Mm-hmm.
We've really, we just recently got, how Netflix was going out of, getting out of the DVD business. And
Right.
so whichever DVD they sent you last, you got to keep. And so my family and I, we got together and we were like, okay, what's the one video or DVD that we don't have that we want? And we
Uh-huh.
all decided it was The Man Who Invented Christmas.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
that's another one, another favorite. Yeah.
Yeah. I really enjoyed that film.
It's also British.
Right. Yeah. I was going to ask if you had any, British Christmas favorites. Sounds like those would kind of cover that too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but
Just,
I haven't seen Arthur Christmas yet, but
oh,
I've
yeah.
heard people
Yeah.
mentioning it a lot. I'm familiar with it.
Oh,
But it is
yeah.
one of those films that came out. It kind of just missed my kids when they were that age to watch it, and they weren't old enough to want to go back and watch cartoons, but they felt like they were a little too old for cartoon kind of thing. You know, just that real awkward spot. They were all like, I don't want to watch that.
Right.
So anyway, it's one of those I haven't gotten around to, but I'm going to put that on my list of films to watch this year, I think.
Yeah, you don't need to be a kid just because it's animated. It's even the acting, the writing is amazing. Most of it goes over the kids' heads. So to me, it is actually more of an adult movie because of
Mm-hmm.
so much of the British humor. It
Mm-hmm.
just it's and yeah, just and every year I hear something new. Even though
Mm.
I've watched the movie, there's all these little things in there. You go, oh my gosh, I didn't catch that last time. That is so funny, or that is so true, or just because it's animated doesn't mean it isn't a masterpiece, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
definitely put it on your list. Yeah.
I love animated films. You know, one of my favorite films of all time is like Wall-E and Up, you know, from
Uh-huh.
Pixar. Just two
Yeah.
really fantastic films.
Yeah.
And then you know, I'm like you. I will read A Christmas Carol every year and watch a couple different versions of it. Although I've got, you know, I'm down to really just the two I really enjoy the most is you know, the Alistair Sim version, and then the Muppets Christmas Carol. I love that
Yes.
version.
I love the Muppets because the
Yeah,
Muppets is, from what I've seen, the Muppets is one of the closest ones to the actual Dickens story.
right. It
You
is.
know,
Yeah,
it really is. People go, "What?" But it is. It's amazing. They do such a good job of making it a ghost story because it's really supposed to be a ghost story.
yeah,
So, and it's yeah, it captures a lot of it that most people. And then of course you got the you know the punchy music, which makes it
right.
more Christmassy and fun. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I agree. That's definitely one of the ones we watch every year too.
It's funny because it's the you know, you've got a film with a singing dancing frog, and yet it's one of the more
Yeah,
closely you know, close adaptations of all of them. So
right.
there you
Yeah,
go.
yeah, yeah. And spooky. You know, some of those Muppets are kind of you know they're pretty scary.
Yeah.
The Ghost of Christmas you know future is
Hmm.
just you know ooh yeah
I actually, and I like the in that film, the Ghost of Christmas Past. You know, just the way they filmed that with the puppet. It's such a hard concept that Dickens was writing about. You know, about how it looked
yeah
simultaneously like an old man and a young baby, and had like at one time had four legs or only two, and all it's like this constant changing shape, and they're able to translate that into this very what's the word, ethereal kind of floaty thing, you know,
yeah
Muppet that
yeah
just really
yeah
worked. Yeah,
yeah it really does yeah
yeah,
yeah
um, yeah. Well, how about one of my favorite aspects of Christmas that I'm probably going to have to change a bit now is the food.
food I knew you were
Yeah,
gonna say food yeah
yeah. What kind of foods or snacks or desserts do you like to have at Christmas time?
ah that's kind of evolved over the years my mom used to make these gingerbread cookies that I would eat out of obligation because she would make them and she would decorate them, but they would be hard as rock. And I always thought gingerbread was that's the way it was supposed to be. But they were to me they're more decoration. She would cover all the shelves in the kitchen with them. But my brother loved them that way, so she would make them that way every year. And then I had gingerbread cookies somewhere else and realized, oh, gingerbread could actually be really nice.
Hmm.
So I do love, we do make like gingerbread cake. And then I've also been into a lot of British like Christmas cake and Christmas puddings, things like that. But I make a sugar cookie that of my a friend of my brother's mom, kind of a distant, but kind of a distant connection, but she was a really good baker. And one day when I was in high school, she just decided to teach me how to make her sugar cookies. And I have been making them every year since. They're like you can't have Christmas without without these. They're called the old-fashioned sugar cookies, and so I make those. And my husband doesn't like sweets. Um, he'll eat chocolate, but for most of the part, he doesn't care for sweets. But he's the one that insisted when we got married that we continue that tradition, and that I make my sugar cookies. So that's definitely a lot of sweets. I realize
Hmm.
everything I'm mentioning are sweet. Um,
Hey, it's just a season to gain weight, it's fine.
It is. Yeah, it really is. And I'm trying to think of the savory things. I know growing up, we always had shrimp cocktail
Hmm.
and this may sound funny, but chasubao, which is barbecued pork steam buns, Chinese barbecued steam buns that we would
Mm.
find somewhere on our travels way back in the day. This is back in the 70s and early 80s. We would go to I grew up actually in upstate New York, so we would go to like Boston or Montreal or someplace that had a Chinatown,
Hmm.
and we would get these and freeze them and then have them for Christmas Eve. And now I can just go. I think the town I live in now has something like 6 Asian markets, so I can have chasu bao anytime I want. But that was something special that was very unusual, I think, to have as a Christmas Eve treat.
Yeah, my my wife's parents, uh, they they would have they lived in they live in Omaha, and so we were always got to go out and see them. But she would have shrimp cocktail out, and like a
Uh-huh.
platter of shrimp, and can
Yep.
what she mixed like cream cheese and this cocktail sauce together, and oh man, so good.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I first visited them, as when my wife and I were just dating, and I went to visit at Christmas time, and I walk into their kitchen, and there's this table just full of junk food and like homemade cookies, all this stuff, and I tell her now, I knew then I was going to marry you.
Yeah.
Look at all this food. This is amazing.
Yeah.
Turns out they were trying to capture me, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I bet you they were. Yeah. One thing that we do is we don't do a big we'll have like uh like the shrimp and things like that at the Christmas Eve, but and we would never growing up we would never have Christmas dinner. We would have Christmas breakfast. That was our tradition. We
Hmm.
would have this huge breakfast. But then we would have very little for actually Christmas night dinner.
Hmm.
But it was all about Christmas breakfast, and
Hmm.
that was a lot of times eggs Benedict was a big popular. That's something my husband and my family still do, eggs Benedict for Christmas breakfast.
Those
So
are good. We will have like a midday meal kind of. We kind of merge lunch and dinner together and just eat ourselves sick,
yeah.
but we do, and we've kind of started this just within the last 5 or 10 years or so. But we'll have a Christmas breakfast as well, and usually it's French toast of some kind, and then like some sausage or something, and just a kind of a special breakfast. And
Yeah.
so it's gotten to be where we'll get them up, they'll open stockings, and then, we were terrible parents and made them wait till after breakfast to open the presents, and,
Yeah.
but try to make a lot of fun. So I get on my crazy Christmas apron and make some French toast and have a good time with that. It's just really a lot of fun. Christmas mornings are just the best,
Oh, they are.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I was growing up, we all the bedrooms were upstairs, and so we could not go downstairs to see if Santa came until my father would go down to verify that
Yep.
he had come. And basically, as an adult, I found out he was going down to start the coffee, right?
Yep. Absolutely.
So, but so my brother and I would literally be at the top of the stairs, like screaming at him, "Hurry up! Come on!" It's like it wasn't that, 10 yards to get down the stairs and to verify that there were presents under the tree in the dining room, the living room.
Hmm.
So, but he had to have to go all the way in the kitchen and make his coffee. And we would just be like literally going out of our minds, but we never imagined going downstairs before my father said it was okay.
Right.
It's just like that was just something we did. It's like, you didn't
Yeah.
question that tradition. It was just, it was almost like an invisible barrier. Like, of course you can't cross that line until dad says, "Yep, Santa
Yep.
came."
You can go down. Yeah.
And thank God he always came. Oh my
That's
God.
right.
Even in the roughest years, there's always something under the tree. So
Yep.
Christmas was special. Yeah, still is.
Yeah, that's so true. Even in the roughest years,
Yeah.
Santa came.
Yeah.
But yeah, we do something similar with our kids. Although I've got one now in college, the other one just finished high school, and then my daughter just started high school. But even last year, we made them wait on the stairs, and it was really funny because the two older boys were like, "We'll just go back to bed for a while if it's okay with you," you know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a little different when you're a little bit older. Yeah.
Yeah. But my daughter, she still has a lot of Christmas spirit, so she's already been singing some Christmas music.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's good times.
Yeah.
Was there a Christmas that was really special to you, and what made it special that kind of sticks out in your mind?
Well, actually, I had a lot. Like I said, my childhood Christmases were all special, but I have to pick a very more recent Christmas that really sticks out in my mind because like I said, I went to England when I was 17 for the first time, and then it took me 30 years to get back.
Mm.
And my family went, and I went, and then I got this series, and I started to go to research my books. And so I was going to England almost every year for a while. And then I thought my husband wouldn't be like, okay, I've been to England. That was good, because he's been all over the world. He's been to Africa and, Argentina and, all these places. And so, but he said, oh, I got an opportunity to go to a conference in Birmingham at Christmas time. Would you want to go? And I always want to be in my own house in front of my own tree on Christmas morning. We
Mm-hmm.
travel a lot after Christmas, but I've never been away from home on Christmas Day. But then this was England. So I was
Right.
really conflicted. I thought, what do I do? Can I actually give up this tradition of 50 years almost, 40, whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
And so I decided, okay, I really want to go to England. It's such a special place, and I will give up this tradition, and we'll make the best of it. It will be okay, and we'll just celebrate when we come home. And I kind of rationalized, and we went to Yorkshire for Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and Boxing Day, and
Mm-hmm.
we had Christmas dinner, which is, like you said, kind of a more of a midday meal in England. A very we went out to this really fancy restaurant that I had to make reservations months in advance, and it was this big. There was a Santa and all these decorations of this huge buffet, and just this gorgeous meal. And we put our stockings on the little dresser where the TV was in our room, and we even had the housekeeping staff, when they saw our stockings, they put things in our stockings unbeknownst to us, because when we
Mm.
opened our stockings Christmas morning, it was like, wait a minute, where did these come from? And it turned out, and we got Christmas cards from the hotels, and because we were away from home, and
Yeah.
it was so special. All of us still think of that as one of our best Christmases ever, and we weren't even at home. So yeah, that was really special. It really
Wow.
was.
Yeah. I'm the same. I like to be at home on Christmas, and very seldom. I don't think we've ever celebrated Christmas anywhere other than at home, at least for Christmas morning.
Right.
But, if there's one thing to tempt me, it would be a chance to do it in England,
Exactly.
Yeah, I need to get over there sometime. And like, I like a lot of old classics too. So, I want to go and see, the Dickens Museum and the Bronte parsonage, and all those old writers and where they lived and the museums they have, and it just I think I might need to spend a year there just traveling.
Yeah, that's my dream. Definitely. I keep trying to talk my husband into doing a sabbatical there so we can we can
Yeah,
actually just live there for a while, because I don't care how many weeks I spend there, and it's never enough. So
right. Well, I definitely catch your love of England here in your story. It's definitely there, and it makes sense now. It all comes together. you,
yeah.
you truly do.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I've got to wrap things up here. Clara, is there anything you want to promote? I mean, other than your new book, do you have a website where folks can come and find you?
Sure. Yeah, it's just claramckenna.com.
ClaraMcKenna.com, and
Yeah.
find out all the things there. Do you have a newsletter there too?
I do, and
Okay.
you can sign up on my newsletter, for my newsletter on my website. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I thought I remember seeing that. So, all right. Well, I am going to go and put Arthur Christmas on my to watch list here and see what all the fuss is about. And
And you'll have to let me know what you think. Definitely.
okay, I will. This might be an upcoming episode of the podcast. I think that might be that'd be a good one. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, again, folks, the book is called Murder on Mistletoe Lane, the newest mystery out by Clara McKenna. Thank you, Clara, for coming on, and I hope that you and your family have a Merry Christmas.
Thank you very much, and to you too, Art.
So thank you so much for listening today. And if you would like to help support the podcast, there are several ways you can do that. Just check out the show notes. There's a link to the merch store, as well as getting some Christmas ornaments and things on Etsy that I have, Christmas t-shirts, all that good stuff. If you make a donation to the podcast on Ko-fi.com, I will send you a bookmark or sticker of or podcast sticker suitable for framing. Well, okay, not really, but I'll send you that along with a Christmas card as my way of saying thank you for your support. Thank you to those who have supported in the past. It means the world to me. Thank you so much. So stay tuned now as we get closer to Thanksgiving. I've got a special Thanksgiving episode planned that you will not want to miss. I was going to tease a mystery celebrity guest, but she's been on the podcast several times before. Stay tuned to see who that might be. With that, I will go ahead and sign off today. But until next time, remember that we will honor Christmas in our hearts and try to keep it all the year. Have a very Merry Christmas.